Namaste and welcome to the next hearing. I am your host Amod Bidhuri, and today we are discussing an issue that sits at the cross section of love, law, and fear. Yes, fear. We were told that Indian marriages are sacred, but today many husbands, many families, and even lawyers will tell you marrying is a bigger legal risk than starting a company. What happened? What made people say this? In today's episode, we are going to go deep. We will not pick sides, we will pick truth. This is not a show against women. This is not a men's rights rant. This is about exposing how legal imbalance is quietly eroding the foundation of families and how lawfare, not love, is now defining modern Indian marriages. And let me ask you, what happens when a marriage breaks? Who really suffers? Who is protected by the law and who is punished? Today we will talk about the fear of Section 498A, the one-sided nature of maintenance laws, the psychological toll on fathers and children, and the silent rise of female-led cruelty, affairs, and abandonment that no one wants to discuss. This is our courtroom, and this is the next hearing. Let's start with the next segment, the weaponization of dowry. Let's begin with the most controversial and misused section in India's legal history, Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code. It was created in 1983. The intent was noble, to protect wives from domestic violence, dowry, harassment, and torture. Back then, women were being killed, burned, and brutalized for not bringing dowry. The law was a response to the brutal reality. And here's what happened. It became a non-bailable, non-compoundable criminal offense, meaning a wife can walk into a police station, file a complaint, and the entire family, husband, parents, even sisters can be arrested without any investigation. Yes, without evidence. Is this justice or is this a blank check for revenge? The National Crime Records Bureau says over 1.2 lakh men are arrested every year under 498A. But conviction rate is below 10%. That means out of every 10 people accused, 9 walk free. But after what? After losing their job, after spending time in jail, after public humiliation, after their marriage and mental health are destroyed. And what is the compensation for false cases? Where is accountability for misuse? No one asks. Because the law assumes if she is a woman, she must be telling the truth. Our next segment is on the maintenance, a one-way street. Now let's talk about the second fear in Indian marriages, maintenance. Under Section 125 of the CRPC, a wife can demand financial maintenance from her husband if she is unable to maintain herself. Sounds fair, right? But here's the catch. Even if the wife walks out without any reason, even if she is living with another man, and even if she is earning herself, there are still judges who grant her maintenance. And the husband, he pays sometimes half his salary, sometimes more than he earns. And if he fails, he can be jailed. Now, where is the maintenance for men who was abandoned, who didn't get custody of his children, who is now paying for a woman who emotionally or financially betrayed him? Where is his voice? There is none. The law assumes he must always be the provider. No questions asked. This creates a dangerous precedent where marriage is no longer a partnership. It's a financial risk for men and a legal insurance for some women. Our next segment is on the cruelty has no gender. Now let's talk about something no one says out loud. Women can be cruel too. Emotional, psychological, and even physical cruelty. But our laws don't acknowledge this. There is no Section 498B for cruelty by a wife. Let me give you a few real cases. Case 1. A husband in Hyderabad was found dead, poisoned slowly by his wife and her lover. He had no idea for months. When he finally complained to the police, he was told, "Sir, maybe you are just imagining things." Case 2. A man in Mumbai recorded months of abuse by his wife. Beatings, insults, false accusations in front of their child. When he presented the video in court, the judge asked, "Why didn't you leave her earlier?" But the law gave him no protection. Case 3. In Delhi, a woman filed a 498A case, got the house, took the children, and now lives with another man. Her husband, still paying maintenance, still fighting for child visitation. Is this really justice? Where is the empathy for men who are beaten, manipulated, emotionally blackmailed, and then legally punished? Where is the empathy for men who are beaten, manipulated, emotionally blackmailed, and then legally punished? Domestic abuse is real, but cruelty has no gender, and neither should justice. Let's pause for a moment. What have we seen so far? Section 498A is being misused with little consequence. Maintenance laws are biased and don't consider context. Cruelty against men is rising but not legally recognized. And now we are seeing something even darker. A silent epidemic of extramarital affairs, child abandonment, and even murders of men by their wives. Now we will dive into the shocking rise in female-led violence, legal double standards in adultery, why more men are committing suicide during marital disputes, what India's courts are saying about these trends, and the bold reforms we need before the institution of marriage collapses entirely. Our next segment is abandoned fathers, lost children. Let's talk about the most invisible victims in this gender war, fathers and children. When marriages collapse, we assume that only women and children are vulnerable. But there is always a third casualty, and no one fights for him. The father, a man who wants to raise his children, who wants to stay in the life of his daughter or son, who wants share parenting, but instead is legally erased. The law gives sole custody to the mother in most cases, even when she has no job or is living with someone else or shows no interest in the children. The father, he gets limited visitation, court monitored meetings, and often no birthdays, no holidays, no daily presence. This is not equality, this is legal orphaning. And what about a child? When one parent is alienated, the child suffers confusion, manipulation, and identity damage. No one thinks of this because the system believes the mother is always the better parent. That's not true. That's not always true. And every day we delay shared parenting laws. We destroy more families quietly. Next segment is affairs, false narrative, and the double standards. Now let's talk about the things no one wants to say out loud. Women cheat too. Extramarital affairs are rising, and this is not one gender story anymore. But our law and society respond differently, depending on who cheats. If a man has an affair, he is shamed, disrespected, and often legally punished. But when a woman cheats, there is sympathy. The court says she may have done it due to cruelty, due to neglect, due to emotional vacuum. But why is this narrative not given to men? Why are adultery cases dismissed casually when it's the wife? Earlier, Section 497 of IPC made adultery a criminal offense, but it was struck down. Fair enough. But now we need to ask, what if a woman is in an affair while taking maintenance from her husband? What if she abandons her children for another man? What if she files false cruelty charges to legalize her exit? All of this is happening in modern times. And yet, she is protected. He is punished. This is not feminism. This is entitlement without responsibility. And when law starts rewarding this, the institution of marriage begins to collapse. Our next segment is suicide and the invisible epidemic. Let's now talk about the darkest outcome of this imbalance, male suicides. Yes, let me say it clearly. Every day in India, over 80 men die by suicide. Many of them are young married men. They leave behind notes saying, "I couldn't take the torture. The false case ruined me and my family. She took my child, she took my house, I have nothing left." We always talk about women's safety, and rightly so. But what about men's mental safety? What mental health support exists for a man who is facing a false dowry case, fighting for custody, paying 70% of his salary as maintenance, being abused silently at home? No one talks about him, no support group, no government scheme, no NGO protest. And then we wonder, why are men withdrawing from marriage and its institution? Why are urban males scared to commit? Because The risk reward equation has turned toxic, and the data proves it. Next segment is what Indian courts are saying. Now let's shift from emotion to law. Even the judiciary is waking up to the misuse. In several rulings, Indian courts have admitted. Supreme Court in Rajesh Sharma versus State of UP in 2017 said Section 498A is being misused as a weapon rather than a shield. In Ramesh Kumar versus State of Bihar 2014, the court directed immediate arrest must be avoided. Police must investigate before acting. Delhi High Court in 2022, false allegations destroy lives. This is legal terrorism. Bombay High Court said allegations must be specific, not general. Entire families cannot be arrested without strong evidence. These are not my words. These are the highest courts of this country admitting that the law is being used for vengeance, not justice. But has Parliament done anything about it? No. Because it's not politically safe to talk about this. That is why, as lawyers, as citizens, as thinkers, we must raise this voice. Our next segment is the case for gender neutral laws. So what do? We don't need revenge, we need balance. Here's what we must demand. 1. Make Section 498A bailable after preliminary inquiry. 2. Introduce penalties for proven false cases to discourage misuse. 3. Legalize and mandate shared parenting after divorce unless proven otherwise. 4. Make maintenance laws merit-based, not gender-based. If a wife is working, let her share responsibility. 5. Set up men's protection cells, just like women's commissions. 6. Bring mental cruelty and domestic violence laws that apply equality to both genders. We don't want a war of sexes. We want a sane, just system that protects all citizens, not just one half. Because justice is not about whom you believe more, it's about who has the truth and the burden of proof. Now, we have the final words, a call to reform marriages before it dies. I'll end with this. Marriage is not dying because people don't want love. Marriage is dying because people fear the law more than they trust each other. The Indian family system, once the pride of our civilization, is being destroyed from within. Not by the Western culture, not by social media, but by laws that reward manipulation and punish good faith. We must rebuild them. We must claim the institution of marriage, not by clinging to the past, but by building a future where rights come with responsibility. Men and women both feel safe. Children are not weapons in divorce battles, and law serves love, not fear. Let this not be a rant, let this be a movement, a civilizational call. Because when the law becomes a sword, marriage becomes a gamble. And when families break, nations bleed. This is not just legal, this is spiritual, this is foundational. Thank you for watching. This is Amod Bidhuri, and you're watching the next hearing. And I promise you, this courtroom will keep speaking.